Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Tip In Maple Leafs podcast, episode 221. And coming up with this one, still no answers on the Mitch Marner situation, but apparently the Leafs are in contract talks with Bertuzzi and Domi. What are their contracts going to look like if they do sign? What's going on with Marner? That's about all we can really talk about. We're going to talk about it right now on 221 of the Tip In podcast.
Nothing but failure for almost a decade. Something needs to change with the on-ice product. Let's hit the intro.
Really disappointing going forward here in the offseason as to, A, what players will be back, what kind of changes there may be, but really disappointing that the Maple Leafs are going home.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Tip In podcast. I'm Chad.
I'm Dale.
And on this one, we're just going to talk a little Leafs. Last episode, we did a little Stanley Cup final preview. This one, let's talk some Leafs. So where do you want to start?
Yeah, man. Well, I guess the Marner situation is the talk of the town, right?
Yep.
Everyone's got their thoughts on the Mitch Marner situation, and we're going to give ours. I mean, we've been pretty – okay, so the dust has settled since the Game 7 loss to the Bruins. Okay, so we were pretty much in – I mean, we were hot after that series. Not that hot because we're just kind of like, well – Here we go.
We're beaten down.
Yeah, it's like, here we go again. Like yeah. I said just in the intro there, like nothing but failure for almost a decade now. One playoff round win, one first round win, and then dummied in the second round. I'm sorry. You can't chalk that up to any type of success. This team is nowhere close. You look at Edmonton, you look at Florida. Florida Panthers think they're going anywhere for the next, 5 years. You want to get to a cup final, you want to get to a conference final, you're going to have to beat Florida in round 1 or round 2, unless they get a wild card and they sneak into the Metro for a season. I wouldn't be opposed to that. But you know what I mean? Where they just don't have to worry about Tampa or Florida or Boston.
But you will eventually.
Eventually, yes. But, so Florida's not going anywhere. They're going to be cooking for the next however many years, 4 years, 5 years, if not longer.
Yeah.
So for me, it's all about making the team better and by any means necessary. And to me, it's like this whole Shanahan era, the Shana plan, whatever. I mean, Austin signed, Willie signed, JT and Marner are up at the end of next season. So I don't know, man. Like, it just seems like it's not all Mitch's fault. Okay. Let's just say that off the top here.
It's not all Mitch's fault.
Has your mind changed at all now that things have cooled down, cup finals cooking here? Like, your opinion on Mitch the same? Has anything changed? Where are you at with it before I kind of hit on a few points?
I think even before, like, we all point to Mitch because it seems to be that's the only one you can move. You know what I mean? Like, if he asks to, or if he says, okay, I'll go, here's a list of teams I'll go to, make something happen, he's the one to move. But really, I think there are other things that you could do if Mitch doesn't want to go.
But Chad, come on, man.
I'm saying this team needs a big overhaul and they need to break up the core. But if he's going to say, I'm staying and I'm playing out my last year, there's nothing you can do. You can make it hard on him. You can tell him we don't want you around here, but it's ultimately up to him because you gave him that no movement clause. He doesn't have to go anywhere. There are things you could do around it, but I think that's the biggest play of the summer.
There's things you can do around it, but the results won't be any different.
No, I know they won't.
So
I know they won't.
As long as the core four is leading the way, like, something has to change. It has to change. Whether it changes this offseason, okay, it might not. he might push their hand because he does hold the cards and whatever. So it might have to be like, we're punting on this year, see what Berube can get out of these guys. If he can get anything more out of them. I think there is potential for him to get more out of these guys, but not enough. Mitch is what he is. You think after 8 years in the league, whatever, 9 years, Mitch is just all of a sudden going to become a different fucking player in the playoffs? I don't see it happening. Personally, I just don't see it, man. Like, no, I think he doesn't like a hard. He doesn't like a hard fucking game. He doesn't like it. He wants to dipsy doodle around the perimeter.
He wants time and space, and it's the first thing they take away in the playoffs. Of course, time and space. Like, so puck drop in round one, time and space is gone.
If he wants to decide to, like, okay, I need to play it. If Berube can get through to this, if they're unable to trade him because he says just plain and simple, no, play out the final year, whatever. If Berube can get through to this guy of like, you got to play a different way, Mitch. If you want the team to have, Berube was preaching at the press conference, team first, all about the team. If he can potentially get through to Mitch, like, you got to play a different way to have success, then okay, I'd like to see that. I don't think Mitch, I just don't see it. I personally don't see it. I think they need to move on from Mitch Marner for many reasons. But I'll go some points that I have down here. A lot of people, Chad. So I'm on team. If you can trade Mitch, trade him. That's where I'm at. I want the cap relief to spend elsewhere, and I just want a different look of just this kind of guy that's not repeatedly doesn't show up in the playoffs. I've seen it. I don't want to see it again. I'm in the let's move on from Mitch Marner camp. I've been seeing a lot of people online, YouTube, some of the different Leafs videos I watch on YouTube, some stuff on Facebook, reading some of the comments. There's a large portion of the Leaf fan base that think it is crazy to trade Mitch Marner. Have you seen any of that?
Yeah, I've seen it. I get it. I totally get it.
Do you? What do you understand? What do you get about that?
You have to look at it as
it hasn't worked, Chad. It's not going to magically just work,
because we're looking at the big picture. We're looking at a Stanley Cup, and we're looking at 4 guys who together have 1 playoff round win, and that's it. But if you're looking at just Mitch, the player, you're looking at a guy who is probably going to get 100 points. Super talented, kills penalties, does a whole bunch of things. I get it that there are people on the Mitch Marner bandwagon that are like, you cannot get rid of this guy. He's too good. But at the same time, that thinking is why you're in this place right now. Like, all of this should have happened years ago. It should have happened after the Montreal series. You know, if you're looking back in hindsight, that's when they should have broken up the core and tried things differently.
Yep.
But if you keep thinking that way, if management keeps thinking they're too talented, we can't get rid of them, we can't change things up, then you're right. You're going to get the same results. But I get looking at Mitch Marner, the player, and saying to yourself, wow, he's so talented, we can't get rid of him. But we're looking at the bigger picture. We're looking at, can they win the fucking cup? I don't care if you get 100 points. I don't care if you score 70 goals. I want the Leafs to win the cup. I don't care who's on the team. Just win a Stanley Cup.
And you know what else you can't change? You can't change the makeup of a player who refuses and is unwilling to do the necessary things needed to win in the playoffs. And that's what I see. Yeah. You can't change it, Chad.
Well, you can. It's been done a million times where players have changed their game.
He's soft. That is just what it is. It is what it is. So,
but the thing is that Marner's closing in on the last year of his contract, and we've seen nothing that he's developed into like a premier playoff player. I know people will be like, well, he has this many points in this many games.
No,
they always point to things like that. But if you watch the games, like watch the series that are going on right now, like,
oh God,
watch these playoffs and tell me if he can put up points the way those stars are putting up points.
Absolutely no chance. Zero. I don't see it. It like, I just don't see this guy growing a massive set of balls and all of a sudden being like, come at me, bro, let's go. And like, I'm not talking about fighting. I'm just talking like, you know, I'll get in the corners, I'll go to the net, I'll get in your face.
I get it.
He's not that. He's just not that.
He's not. And a lot of guys in their careers, they've changed and they've had to change for many reasons. He doesn't really have to change because he's got the money, he's got the contract. He doesn't really need to change his game to anything else. A lot of the times people change because they're falling out of the league or they're falling out of the lineup and things like that. I will say this though. If in a perfect world, it would be JT for me.
Well, I say I want them both.
I know, but if you could only move one, for me it would be JT, because I think like $11 million and he's not giving you anywhere close to that. At least Mitch will help you get to the playoffs. He may not help you once you're there, but at least he'd help you get to the playoffs. JT, man, I don't know what to expect in this upcoming season, but you're going to pay $11 million for a guy who maybe has 50 points. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm on board with that. I want Tavares and Marner gone. I just want a different look. I'm sick of trying it and trying it and trying it and trying it. No, I want a different look. Those two guys, for me, the money needs to go, and the money needs to be shuffled around, spread out a little wider around helping this team
a lot
wider in different areas. But I think it plays out with JT. Like, he comes back, he plays the final year of his contract, and then he either signs on the cheap, or they're just like, thanks JT, great captain, we're moving on. That's how I see that playing out. But I'm with you. But on the Marner thing, apparently, the agent comes out, says he's willing to play out the final year of his deal, not interested in moving on, whatever. Well, okay. But okay, fine. But if you're tree living, do you not have to have a conversation here with Mitch and the agent and be like, look, like, we're not signing you. Like, there's not going to be a contract extension. So if you want, so what do you want here? Give me a list of teams. We'll try to get something that works in your favor, but you will not be you want to play out the year, great, but you will not be a Toronto Maple Leaf after next season. I think that's the worst case scenario, because now you're talking about an asset. You can get something for Mitch Marner. They don't have the money to re-sign this guy. And if he wants Willie's 11.5, let's just say as a comparable, that's the money he'd be looking at, 11.5. They would be fucking crazy to sign Mitch Marner to a long-term deal or a short-term deal or any fucking deal worth $11.5 million. So looking forward, there will be no extension on the table. Letting this guy walk for nothing is I guess they don't have a choice. Sure, you get the cap relief, but you could get some valuable assets back for Mitch. So I just think that is the absolute worst case scenario, is that Mitch basically is like, well, fuck you guys then. I'm just going to play out the year and I'll walk as a UFA and you guys aren't going to get a fucking thing from me. Is that not the worst case scenario here?
Yeah. And unfortunately, he holds all the cards. And really, I know Leaf fans are like, well, just waive your no movement clause. Just go. And Tree Living should go down and talk to him and say, you know what? We don't want you here. We're not going to sign you. So just give us a list of teams. But at the end of the day, he holds all the cards. Why should he do anything for them? Why should he be I'll go.
Look at all they've done for him.
I know, but he doesn't have to. If he's comfortable in Toronto, he's got family here and he wants to stay here.
Well, it's gonna get a lot more uncomfortable if he goes into next season without a contract extension. Yeah. When he's wheeled out,
because I tell you, this is how I see Toronto Maple Leaf fans.
He's horrible in the media. He's horrible in the media as it is. Wait till he starts getting questions every day about contract.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's going to get to him mentally. It's going to break him down. But this whole Leaf fans, they'll forget. Mitch Marner will put up a whole shit ton of points in the first 3 months, and everyone will be back in love with Mitch again.
Some will.
You just can't. If he is going to stay and he is going to play out the year, you have to stick to your gun of your future plan. If you're saying to yourself, we're not going to re-sign him and we're going in a different direction, you can't do that Leaf thing where he comes out and he's the fucking best player in the league for 3 months and you're like, oh God, okay, here's 8 years at $14 million.
They can't.
I know, but the Leafs do shit like that. The Leafs management do shit like that. Look at Nylander. Okay, yeah, Nylander's great or whatever, but you could have waited till the end of the year. You might have been able to get him a little cheaper. Yeah. But instead you sign him when he's at the peak of a career year, when he's on a fucking tear.
But if you wait, you're risking the chance of I'm this close to free agency.
But that's the fucking mentality the Leafs management always has. And that's my biggest fear, is that he's going to stay because he doesn't want to go. And the Leafs are like, all right. And then halfway through, they're going to start to panic because he's got, he's leading the league in points and he's running the power play and he's doing great under Berube. And they're like, geez, maybe we should sign this guy.
I don't know, man. But with Nylander, for me, he's more of a gamer than Mitch. He's who's
right,
one of the.
I'm just saying. Again, you signed a guy for the maximum amount of dollars.
Who's one of the only? I understand that, but who's one of the only
discount though?
What's that?
Do you think Nylander's a discount at 11.5?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, great. So he's a gamer. Yeah, he's a bigger gamer.
Well,
he's going to bring you more in the playoffs. But I'm just saying, you still overpaid.
I know, but at least there's more of a sample size of it's not all on Mitch. Again, all of them combined haven't won. But
no, we're just talking about the different scenarios.
Exactly. But who was one of the only forwards that showed up in game 6 and 7? Nylander. He had 2 goals in game 6 and the only goal in game 7. Where the fuck was Mitch Marner?
No, I'm not saying I
know you're not. I know you're not.
I'm just talking about Leafs management. They have a tendency to grow boners at weird times for their fucking players.
I don't think
that's like you're saying the worst scenario is he stays and they get nothing for him.
Yes,
I think the worst scenario is he stays, has a career year, and the Leafs sign him, and they're like, oh.
I don't think Brad Treliving has any interest in re-signing Mitch Marner. Last year at this time,
I know Shanahan probably does.
I'm not so sure about that. Last year at this time, Treliving was all about our top priorities: sign Austin Matthews, sign William Nylander. They did that. He talked about it repeatedly. That's what he wanted to do. He has made no mention of, because Marner and Tavares are eligible for contract extensions on July 1st. Treliving hasn't even sniffed a little whiff of a contract extension for Mitch Marner or John Tavares.
Yeah,
not even sniffed a little whiff.
I mean, 100% the Leafs management's going to play the game. They're not going to talk contract extensions. They're going to make it a little uncomfortable. They're going to go down that road. I'm just saying that they have a tendency to sign people or fall in love with players at weird times or when they're at career highs and then do stupid things.
Yeah, that has to end. It has to end.
I'm just saying, if you can save $1 million here, $1 million there, maybe you can pay a couple extra million for a fucking goaltender.
Yeah.
How about that? You want to win a round?
Yeah.
Have someone that you can rely on in net. Or maybe you can get a defenseman. Maybe you can get something else instead of just fucking keep giving money to these forwards.
Okay. So how do you ultimately think this plays out with just Mitch specifically? Just your gut. What do you think? So a couple scenarios. Do you think that they present to him there will be no contract extension on the table? You want to play it out? Fine, play it out. But this is your last year as a Toronto Maple Leaf, no matter what you do. Because the money, we don't have the money for you, Mitch. We have to spend it elsewhere. Or how do you think it plays out? How do you think it plays out? He's a Leaf next season. He's not. He's a Leaf after next season. He's not. What do you think? What's your gut tell you, Chad?
My gut tells me that he's probably going to play this season with the Leafs. But a part of me, like a small part of me, thinks that they'll be able to find a trade. Because at the same time, even if he says yes and gives a list of teams, the trade has to be right. So if he gives you 10 teams and there's nothing worth trading Mitch Marner for, then you might as well hang on to him.
How many?
And I think a big thing it's Berube too. Do you remember when Babcock came in and instantly he was like, we got to get rid of fucking Phil Kessel. I want nothing. I do not want this guy on my team. If you want to win, maybe Berube thinks he can make something of Mitch and has an opinion on it, or maybe he thinks he's never going to do it
for one season. Okay, but the money still doesn't work long term.
No. I don't think the Leafs are going to sign him long term. I'm just talking about this season. I think he's going to play just because the odds of him saying yes, I'll be traded are
if you're not wanted.
I know, but they're probably not great. And then he's going to give a list of teams. Obviously, he's going to want to go to certain places.
Chad,
just make it so difficult to make a good trade.
How many teams around the NHL would beg for the offense that Mitch Marner would bring them? He could absolutely.
Right, but are they on his trade list?
I don't know, but there's a ton of teams that he could go to and supply offense and help them make the playoffs. He's not going to do a fucking thing for them once they get to the playoffs. For sure. Yeah, you're right. Are they on his trade list? Yeah,
or is he is he picking really nice sunny places.
Well, fuck, send him out to California. See you later, Mitch. Good luck.
But I'm just saying, do those teams want Mitch Marner?
Why
Obviously, like
you?
San Jose and teams like that would love to have Mitch Marner.
Maybe Mitch is like, you know what? Just played in the hotbed here and the media every day. Maybe Mitch is like, you know what? I'll take the Pacific Ocean. Let's go fucking somewhere in California and not have the media in my grilling me every fucking day.
Yeah, no, I'm guaranteed he's going to have he's got a list of teams. Like, he has an idea of where he wants to go. He probably knows people in the league. He's probably reached out to talk to people to say, hey, what's it like there? Like, what would it be like if I got traded there? At the same time, a trade has to happen. Like, imagine how big of a trade this is for Tree Living. He is dragged through the fucking mud for the Tkachuk trade when he was pretty much given one team to deal with.
Yeah, he had no choice. He
had no choice. But the way it turned out is Huberdeau's just been a bust, and Tkachuk is leading the fucking Florida Panthers again.
Yep.
You don't know what's going to happen. So he's got to. I know he probably won't win the trade on paper, but it's got to be good enough to satisfy the fans and everybody. That's going to be a really tough task. It's going to be a really tough task.
Creating the cap space alone for me to open up the money to bolster the blue line with some legitimate guys back there. I know there's free agents, Brandon Montour, Pesci, there's guys available, but whether you might have to trade, like whatever, like it's not going to be cheap to build this blue line. Like, looks nothing like the blue line that Tree Living wants it to be. Like, I think if Tree Living had his way, your bottom pair would be McCabe and Benoit. You keep Riley in the mix, and you're probably bringing in 3 different guys completely. So
what if I'll throw this to you. What if you tried to do a 1-year thing? Like, what if you came up with a plan for 1 year until all that cap money, JT's, Mitch's came off the books?
Well, I think that's probably what they're going to do.
And you go out, you look for, like, unless you find someone, a superstar, you look for 1-year deals on defense, look for a goalie on a 1-year deal, unless you find a really good one.
Yeah.
And then you kind of, you let Berube do his thing. You get a sense of what kind of team he wants to coach, what kind of style he coaches, all that. But at the end of the year, work or doesn't work, everybody's off the books, except the guys that you have under contract.
Yep. I think that's the most likely scenario. I think that's probably the most.
Like, try to build as good a contending team as you can. It sounds stupid to not go out and get the best player, but let's try not to get locked into really long contracts just for a little bit.
Yeah, that's what he did last summer. It was every free agent Tree Living signed was 1-year deal. I would imagine a similar
Except Reeves.
Thing. Right.
Yeah, Reeves. I'm saying, like, if you want to sign a guy like that, okay, 1 year. Everything's 1 year, and then we'll go from there.
So let's go into. So everything's still up in the air with Mitch here, whatever. Yeah. We'll keep a close eye on it like everybody else. And as soon as there's something that happens or whatever, we'll be here for that. But I think this is a good time to move on to talk a little bit about Bertuzzi and Domi. You were talking about 1-year deals and not really, just kind of focusing on next year as the year that not go crazy, probably not going to be our year. But at the end of the year, next season, we will be able to get JT and Marner off the books if they want. That opens up a hell of a lot of fucking money to spend elsewhere. So yeah, maybe you don't shoot your load for this upcoming season and you wait until going into the 25-26 season. So Bertuzzi and Domi, so if that's the case, where do you see the two of them potentially? They're in talks apparently with both of them. I mean, can they make the money work there? Are they both going to want to come back on another 1 year? I doubt that.
No, they're not going to.
So where do you fall with like the two of them coming back? How much term? How much money? Would like to get your thoughts on that.
I think you have to stick to your plan. Like I said, don't fall in love with the players. Sure, Bertuzzi, he turned it on. He had a really good season. So did Domi. They played great with Matthews and all that. If they want too much money, if they want too much term, no.
Well, what would you be willing to do? What do you think would make sense?
Well, I would, if I'm giving out term, if I'm the GM and I'm giving out term and I'm giving out money, number one, nobody's getting a no movement clause for any reason. And I'm keeping everything available so that it would be easy to flip and trade. Because if I'm going into 25, 26 and I'm getting all that money off the books, I'm going to want pieces that I want to trade to try and bring in big things and really build a team. So yeah, they could stay, but I'm not going to overpay Bertuzzi. I'm not going to overpay Domi. Maybe I'll give him a couple years, and if I need to, I can flip them in the offseason for some other pieces. And that's about it. But honestly, man, I'm gonna run this team. I'm gonna see what Cowan can do. I'm gonna see what Robertson can do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fill it with 1-year deals. If Marner's like, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. So do you think in particular with Bertuzzi and Domi, like being both UFAs, do you think that there is term out there for both of those guys? Like
somebody will give them more than the Leafs did.
It's
the Toronto effect. Every time someone plays in Toronto, somebody sees them and gives them a big contract. It's just the way it goes.
Would you be comfortable with Domi 3x3?
Yeah.
Bertuzzi, would you do 5x3 for Bertuzzi?
Oh, absolutely. I would do 5x3. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think that's tradable.
I meant $5 million for 3 years.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I think that's tradable. Like a short term with not a huge cap hit is always tradable, but don't do something stupid, which the Leafs have had a tendency to do over the years.
Yeah.
And it's like giving David Camp 4 years at $2.5 million.
Yeah.
It's hard to trade a fourth line guy with a 4-year
first move Tree Living made. That right there.
Don't do if Camp was on a 1-year deal at $2.5 million, okay, you overpaid a little bit, but guess what? Now we can move on and try something new this year. Don't do those types of deals and just wait until the money's off the books. And if you're going to sign someone, get them on a good term that you can flip in the off season. That's it, baby.
Oh, what's that, Chad? I'm just getting word here now.
You got the titty video?
No. Mitch Marner is on a flight from Pearson out to California.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, what's that? Sorry. Oh, no, that's just no. Incorrect. Sorry. False information. Sorry to get anybody's hopes up there for a second. No, he's not. No, he's in Muskoka at his cottage, just hanging out with his hot wife, drinking margaritas.
Yeah.
And
we were wrong. We were wrong. It's Rich Horner. Rich Horner is on the flight to California, not Mitch Marner.
So, yeah. No, Mitch is just up at the cottage, chilling out, just waiting for July 1st when he gets a nice big fat fucking bonus. Oh, fuck. They got to stop doing this too with the July 1st shit. Just pay it out over the season. Why do you need to do it? Why do you have to it's
a tax. It's to compete with the taxes. If you play down in a lot of the states, you don't pay any tax. Here in Ontario, you pay a shitload of tax. Bonuses are taxed.
Paying tax on it anyway, are you not?
Bonuses are taxed way less.
Okay.
Way less.
Okay.
Except if you're John Tavares and you don't pay your taxes.
Apparently. Anyway, guys,
that shit's crazy, by the way. That shit is crazy.
Man, I got my hopes up there for a second. I thought Mitch was on a flight to California, about to scope out the Pacific Ocean and
Rich Horner,
the San Jose Sharks, but
nope.
Anyway, all right, so whatever. That's it, man. I mean, we kind of set our thing.
We'll be back if something happens, if they do sign contracts or if Mitch gets traded. We'll be back, and until then, we'll probably be back at the draft when. Just around the corner.
We'll see. Maybe if the cup final ends early, if it ends up going to the end of June, then the draft is going to be Game 7 would be on June 24th. The draft is on the 28th, so 4 days later. So depending on when the cup final ends, maybe we'll come back and do one then. If not, draft weekend, free agency will definitely be back then. But guys, before we go, leave your thoughts in the comments below on YouTube. Mitch Marner, a lot of mixed opinions on little Mitchy. Oh, y'all didn't hear I got a shotgun pulled on my ass this afternoon? That was Ben Affleck's character in Dazed and Confused when they're trying to, what's the paddles there? Anyway.
Well, here's a tidbit of information for you. If they were to make Dazed and Confused right now, it would be the graduating class of 2004.
Oh, wow. Okay, well,
because it came out in 93 and they were the graduating class of 73.
Crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. But anyway, yeah, guys, leave your thoughts in the comments because I know this is a very hot topic and people have, different opinions on it. You still want Mitch back? You want him traded? how does the money work? That my final thoughts on this, Chad, is just like, I don't see how the money works going forward. So try to get a deal done for this guy. If you can't get a deal done, you're going to have to just let him walk as a free agent and get nothing for him, but you'll still have the cap space. But I just don't see how they can afford to sign this guy when you need to make the team better in other areas. I'm sorry, long-term, maybe Mitch plays next year, but I think that will be it for him as a Toronto Maple Leaf. I don't know. Final thoughts to you, I guess. Whatever.
Final thoughts to me. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I think Mitch is going to stick around, but hey, I'm hoping for a blockbuster trade. I'm hoping for some big things to happen because we got to do the podcast, and I love watching the Toronto Maple Leafs. And actually, sorry, I was wrong. It was graduating class of 76. So it would be like 2007.
Oh, yeah, that would not be nearly.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Anyway, for the Tip and Maple Leafs podcast, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at the Tip and Maple Leafs podcast, on Twitter at Tip and Pod, TikTok, Tip and Podcast. Email us, tipandpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, I'm Chad.
I'm Dale.
And we will.
Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening. Please like this video on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we'll see you when we see you. But thanks again, everybody. We'll catch you later.
Catch you later.